Jolaz Starkiller says, and I'm going to guess that's not your real name, Mr. Starkiller. Dear Mr. Whittle, how would you make sure that we have access to fully automatic weapons, missile launchers, etc.? This is a very tough question to answer, and I got to be honest with you, Jolaz, I don't think I have time to get into this in its detail. First of all, virtually all of us have access to automatic weapons. Well, I don't have a fully automatic weapon. I have a semi-automatic weapon. I'm limited to 10 rounds in California and a bullet button, which means that I'm not allowed by law to have a detachable magazine, but the definition of a detachable magazine is a magazine that is detachable without the use of a tool. So working around a bad law in California, I have an AR-15 assault rifle, and I have a 10-round magazine, and by taking the tip of a 5.56 round and pushing it into a recessed clip, I am using a tool, and because I'm using a tool that is not a detachable magazine, and therefore I can drop that magazine in just slightly more time than it would take somebody who doesn't live in a state run by communists. I have a semi-automatic weapon. I'm not allowed to make it full automatic, but it may not come as a surprise to you to know that, as far as I know, and certainly I'm probably get a lot of feedback on this right away, I don't believe that the Army has fully automatic rifles anymore. I don't think the M4s that they distribute to our soldiers in the field, I don't think they have a fully automatic setting anymore. I'm fairly sure that they don't. They have single-shot semi-auto, they have a 3-round burst, and they have a safety, because this idea of just pulling the trigger and spraying bullets, horrifying though it is to liberals, frankly, if somebody's shooting at me and I have to run from point A to point B in an open space and I hear, I like that much better than, because that guy is aiming. And I am more worried about guys that aim. And our soldiers are trained to aim, and one of the things I think is so interesting about our troops overseas now is that if you look at the weapons that these guys are carrying, if you looked at the guys even in the Gulf War, even in the beginning of the Iraq invasion, the standard soldier in the field had a M16 or an M4 with iron sights with the carry handle, traditional looking M16 thing, which is basically you hold it up and you aim it with iron sights. But I haven't seen anybody in the field lately that didn't have optics. And why is that so important? It's important because if you have optics, a magnifying scope, a 3-power scope or something like that, that means that you can take these guys out before they get into range. I don't need to spray fully automatic bullets down there. I want to hit a guy, well, I've got him in my range, but I'm not in his range. I want my engagement circle to be larger than his. So I like the idea of a semi-automatic rifle that I can pull the trigger on as fast as I can get the crosshairs over this guy. Yeah, I think somebody just said 3-round burst is pretty much it. And the reason is because if you're going, as anybody who's ever fired a fully automatic weapon knows, you simply cannot maintain control over it. Now, I'm going to hear something about this too, but let's just say most people cannot maintain control of it. The thing just starts flying around all over the place. So, to some degree, as frightening as it is for us to see, these gun control guys, the gun control side of the argument has been taking a thrashing. I mean, taking a thrashing. It's been gun rights wins for 10, 12, 15 years now. The 9th District Circus, I heard it described that the first time just a couple nights ago. The 9th District Circus is basically said, of course you have a right to concealed carry in California. So we're winning all across the board here. The real issue, of course, is missile launchers and anti-tank weapons and rocket launchers and atomic weapons and nuclear missiles and those kind of things. And people will try to take the argument into how much weaponry should you be allowed to have. And my first inclination would be to say, how much can you afford? But it's a serious issue, and I'm not going to get into it because it's not that I don't want to, it's just I don't have time. But basically, there are two arguments you can make. One of the argument is bear arms means to carry them. So, you could bear to bear an arm is to carry an arm. You bear something, you carry it. So you could make the case that what the Second Amendment is doing is saying the government cannot infringe on your ability to have weapons that you can bear, that you can carry, keep and bear. You can keep a tank in the garage, but you can't carry a tank into battle. So you could make the case that that will be a limitation, would be something that is shoulder launchable, something that is man portable. But I think the better argument is simply this. I think that an American citizen ought to be able to arm himself with whatever weapons the government is going to come after him with. And if they're going to come after you with pistols, you should be able to have pistols and rifles. If they come after you with rifles, you should be able to have rifles and things of that nature. Nowadays, with police forces being as militarized as they are, but I'm not blaming this on the police. If somebody really wanted to come after you, if they came after you, they'd probably come after you with tanks and come after you with Predator drones. So if they're coming after you with tanks, then yeah, I'm kind of in favor of having an anti-tank round. And I'm kind of in favor of the right to keep and bear Stinger missiles, both of which are bearable. I can bear them. I can carry them with me into battle. I think you probably need the ability to stop the government from coming to kill you. If people look at you like you're mad, but seriously, all you have to do is read the history of Bolshevism or the Russians and realize, 100 million, 200 million people killed by their own government. That's probably the second leading cause of death among people after disease. It's well ahead of war and religious wars. I mean, seriously, I think these principles have to hold, and you have to ask yourself too. Now, needless to say, does a guy have a right to nuclear weapons? I think he does not. I mean, you're starting to deal now with the ability of somebody swinging their fist to, make everybody's day kind of a bad day. You also have to ask yourself, do you need nuclear weapons to defend yourself against the government or against assault? You don't have the right to keep and bear arms in order to annihilate cities or in order to conquer territories or in order to do any of these things. You have the right to keep and bear arms to defend yourself, your family, and your property against transgression. And it is a defensive right, this natural right. It's not an offensive right. I don't know if it'd be much good to have a nuclear hand grenade. I just don't think I could throw it far enough. And so, sometimes we get so far reactive to these arguments being used against us that we ourselves find ourselves in the weeds. And I don't want to find myself in the weeds. I don't think I need nuclear weapons to defend myself. In fact, I know I don't need nuclear weapons to defend myself. I need the weapons that I need to defend myself and my family against crime, the government, and so on. It didn't used to be in my worldview that they would use tanks against American citizens but now it is, because they understand that we're all armed, right? The only way they're going to get the weapons out of this country is if they come after us with tanks, because if they come after us with rifles, they're going to be in for a bit of a shock, and they know it, and everybody knows it. So, if they're really talking about using tanks now on the American people, then give the American people anti-tank weapons. But that doesn't mean you've got the right to have an offensive arsenal. You have the right to defend yourself. I could go on for this for days, but I think we pretty much get the full idea here.